lemonade that Rhonda made. I was like, this is so cute. Everybody will want to be doing that for a picnic. And then Leslie doing the tea sandwiches. And exactly as I imagined, the one thing that was so amazing to me, my daughter lives right near the Luxembourg Park, one of the most visited parks in Paris, and she's just 2 minutes from there. So she made a picnic for us, our charcuterie picnic. It was in the afternoon between lunch and dinner, because she was making us dinner in her house. Made a nice French dinner, was fabulous. And it was just so great. But what was so amazing to me, the picnic, it was so great to say, like, everything is set up for you to have a picnic, but there are no tables, but there are chairs under trees. And the gardens, the park, the fountain is absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. What really stuck out to me the most, though, was how many people were in the park, that you could tell that they were true Parisians, because they were speaking French. There were a lot of different cultures, but everyone was speaking French. And they just had like a very simple, like a little backpack with a baguette sticking out the back of it, and maybe some chips. Some people had like Nutella to put on their bread. Some people had charcuterie. And it was absolutely so amazing. I had my son-in-law, who is a film director, I had him take some photos for me. And I have every photo from our trip, but those photos are not on my camera roll. I don't know what happened to them, because I saw them and I kept showing my daughters, like, look how cool this is. It's so nice. And we could see, like, there was not one place to move. People from all ages. Was just amazing. It was amazing. It was part of the experience that I definitely like hold true to my heart. And it was so nice to see so many people just come from their homes and go and sit in the park and have a picnic. It was probably one of the first starts of spring. It was over 80 degrees. It was so sunny. Actually, it was really hot for 4 of the days that we were there. And it was, for me, this is why I love the philosophy of the French. For us, a lot of times now, if we're going to have a picnic where it's somebody's birthday party, maybe it's a Mother's Day party, maybe it's something big, a family reunion, but just to have a spontaneous, let's go for a walk and have a picnic. I think that it's so important to get back to the roots of, I know I was raised, we were doing things like that all the time. And it's just so great to come back to where we were at one time, off the technology, sitting and enjoying one another. I mean, there were people taking photos with their phone, but you could see they were engaged in conversation. And it was 2 people. Sometimes it was 4, sometimes it was 6. And I really did a lot of observing of that, because the behavior is, I felt it was very different. Of course, I live in a cold state. I live in Michigan. And until now, you couldn't really go out and have a picnic because of the weather. And but you could have a picnic in the snow if you wanted to, with hot chocolate and some nice marshmallows, roast marshmallows, do whatever. So I think that the whole picnic series for the entire month of May is such an important series, because it's really about just bringing people together. Grab something, have a snack. People are comforted through food, conversation, and food and drink. And of course, nature brings that to you, right? Just really brings everything full circle. And that's why we created the whole month of May for the entire picnic. So this time we're talking about picnic in the park, and I've got some great recipes. My favorite is, of course, the French baguette. After just walking every 3 steps, there was another bakery. And even though I'm gluten-free, I was able to eat the bread there. And I just really learned so much about how much less cost the food is if you buy in the grocery in Europe, and how I don't have reactions to the dough that I will have here. So there's a lot of things. So I came home and I thought, I'm going to make some baguettes. And then I got to thinking, what how can I have no reaction to the food as I had when I was in France? So I did some research online, and I found the number one flour, or the number one flour that they use in France. It's the most popular flour from all of the bakeries in France, and it's called Francine, so it's real easy to remember. Of course, I ordered it from a French company that sells on Amazon. It was not cheap, but I don't think any groceries are cheap right now. So it really comes in these small bags, or I think 2 pounds in the bag. And I just made the first baguettes with this flour. I made them the other day with my regular Five Roses flour, which is bleached Canadian flour. So this one is a French organic, which you see that it's bio for it being organic. And I thought this was really cool that you'll notice on most of the food packaging, if you can see right here, most of the food packaging has this A, B, C, D rating down here. And of course, this is organic and it has an A rating. So they want to make sure that you know what you're getting. So this was really cool to see that. So I have 2.5 cups of flour in the bowl that I put here. And I have I have 2.25 cups of water, which the water needs to be between 110 and 138 degrees. If your water is 139 degrees, it will kill the yeast, and your yeast won't bloom and your bread won't rise. So you want to make sure of that. Mine is still like pretty much on the lower side. It's not like 125, it's probably about 110. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take a spoon of this instant yeast. I suggest everybody try this yeast. This yeast is from a French company. It is sold at Costco. It's a very good price, $4 or something. And this, it's a $2 billion company. They sell all over the world. It's the largest yeast company in the world. And I have had the pleasure of actually meeting the owner of that company. It's one of Patrice's friends. So I'm just putting 1 spoon of yeast in here. And then I'm also going to put 1 tablespoon of honey. You know, normally you put some salt and you put some sugar. I never knew that honey would make your yeast bloom so well. So this is why we're doing that. So we're going to leave this sit. You can leave it set for about 10 minutes. Remember, the colder that your water gets, the less it seems like elastic your dough will be, like really getting your dough to come all together to solidify like the flour and the salt and that yeast together. Then I'm going to take 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And I've already measured that out. I'm just going to mix this up, and you can see like this flour is very fine. It's much finer than our flour. And the funny thing is, when I opened the bag, the first thing I could smell, it smelled like homemade bread. I've never smelled flour that smelled like homemade bread except this flour. So that was definitely unique. What you do, and I've been a bread baker for a long time, not literally, but I love to bake bread for my family, and I used to make it every day when my kids were young. My husband's European, and he ate homemade bread every day, so I said, okay, I'll continue the same process. So we're going to do this by halves or thirds, so I'm going to do 1/3. We're going to let this rise a little bit more. You can see that it has that bloom right there. Earlier today, I left it for 12 minutes and the bloom got so big, and the bread was beautiful and rose really nice. So I'm going to, for time's sake, I'm going to put 1/3 of this in. And then I'm going to put 1/3 of the oil in. We have a total of 2 tablespoons of oil, and I am using our very light, beautiful, this is a finishing oil. It's our Evu 100% French oil. And why not? Don't you think you should use French oil with a French baguette? Of course. So we're just going to mix this around. Hopefully you can see this. We just mix this and have the water start picking up the bread from the sides of the bowl. Very simple. And you can see it's ready for more. So I make another well in the middle. A little bit of oil. Do the same thing again. This bread will be done and within 2.5 hours, you'll be eating the bread. So there is a recipe for a French baguette that is much more complicated, but this is not it. So I love this recipe because you can have the bread done in no time at all. And if you wanted to start at 3 p.m. and you want to eat the bread for dinner, you can. So that's really awesome. So I'm going to put the rest of this in, and I'm going to leave a little bit in the cup because depending on humidity, depending on flour, depending on so many things, you can see I'm just pretty much pulling that dough and putting it through my fingers here. It feels pretty sticky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit more flour. And the way that you get really good at working with dough is by creating your relationship with the dough. And the way that you do that is practice. Practice makes perfect. The first time you may be doing it perfectly, but you may not. Who knows? Every time you bake bread, it's going to be better than the time before. And that's what you need to really remember the most. We'll put some more oil. I want to make sure I use all of that. So you can see we have how do you know when your dough is like ready? It's when it looks like this. Do you see that the dough is sticking to my hands, but not exactly? And I can easily pull the dough off of my hands that it's not sticking to my second hand so much. And that is a good indication that my dough is ready. It doesn't need to be super kneaded or anything like that. So just pull that dough off and I put it back on the center here. Then I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of flour on top. I'm going to pull up the sides so I make a little ball. And we're going to cover it up. And I'll tell you what I do always with my dough. We have this little thing here. This is going to more than double in size. When it's double in size, you can then make your dough. It could be an hour, it could be an hour and a half, depends on how well your yeast bloomed and how quickly it's going to come along. I need to wash my hands and I'll show you the next step. Hopefully I can get this dough off my hands really quick. So I don't keep you waiting. I was thinking about this today, like how quick can I wash my hands? Well, when you have dough on your hands, it's not that quick. Take the towel here. Okay. The next thing that I like to do, and I do this with every time I make any kind of dough. And actually, if you learn to make one bread, you can make any or many. So I take the bun mat here. This is the dough that I have ready to show you how we're going to make it, how we're going to form it. And I put the bun mat on top of the dough. There's nothing worse than having a dough that gets kind of dry. What if you can't bake it right away? Somebody comes to the door. You want to make sure that you protect your dough. I call it the respect and the integrity of the dough. So you want to make sure you really respect it. You don't have to baby your dough, but you do need to know what to do. I take just a regular plastic bag. I always have a roll of these because I cover things that I bake or I'm leaving aside, cover them with that. And then I take a flour cloth, just a thin flour cloth. And I think of this like a receiving blanket for a baby. You want to make sure the baby's really covered. And you want to do the same thing with your dough. And if you have a nice warm spot that you can put it in your kitchen, you can do that. But it doesn't have to be because look, we protected it. We put the bun mat on there. We put a bag on there to hold in any of the heat of the dough. And then we covered it with our receiving blanket. And I'm just going to set it over here. Okay. So our dough, supposedly, our dough's all ready. And we have our pastry mat here. So you'll see me more and more calling this a pastry mat because nobody knows what a rule pad is, and it's a pastry mat. So we're going to use the pastry mat. I'm going to put this cup over here. And I have the dough. So you could see one thing I noticed about this dough, a lot of times when I make bread, when I take the bond mat off of it, it stays like right in place, but you could see that this was inflated. So it deflates a little bit like a cake. So when that happens, don't worry, your bread's still gonna be fantastic. So we're gonna make 2 breads with this small amount of dough. Can you believe that? I am, for the sake of the bread and the dough, I'm putting a little bit of flour on here. The dough won't stick to the bond mat, but I can see the dough still is very moist. And it's okay to be moist, but I need it to be a little bit less moist. So when I roll it, it works. So I'm pulling the sides of the dough towards the middle. And that's what you want to do in order to get it out of the bowl. And then I'm going to pick it up from the bottom. And I'm going to pop it right on here. Set my bowl aside, and I'm going to do that same thing again. A good rule of thumb, what I like to do is I put one finger here, then I pull up the sides. And I pull the sides up all along the dough without pushing into the dough yet. We're not pushing into the dough yet. So we just pull that up, and you can see we have a nice circle here. See that, how that looks? So then we're going to smooth this around a little bit where the flour is. And then we're just going to shape this, and we're going to cut it. So you don't need to really worry. We just want to get it right. So we haven't actually totally deflated the dough as of yet. I'm going to take my spatula and I'm going to cut straight across the dough. Oops, I didn't realize that we have something on the spatula. I don't know what I got with it, but it will be fine. Let's pull that off. Okay, so we have this piece of dough here. And let me just pull this off quickly. The thing is, the dough doesn't know the difference. It's perfectly fine, but I want to make sure it's nice and clean. Okay, put this in there. So this is our dough. So this is going to become our baguette. But before it becomes a baguette, I'm making it into a rectangular shape. And then I'm going to push down. I like to do it actually with my knuckles. And then I'm going to bring that forward. And I'm going to push down on this side as well. And I'm going to bring that forward as well. And then I'm going to push down because I don't want to see that seam. You can, of course, pinch it if you want to pinch it. That's what I did first because I'm not used to shaping the dough like this. I usually make a big round artesian dough. So you can see the dough right now. It's flatter on the ends and it's wider in the middle. And that's the way I want it to be. So I'm going to separate my fingers like this to roll it. I never could understand why I couldn't roll the dough so it was thinner on the ends and poofier in the middle. But this is the trick. So we will make sure first that the dough is how we want it to be. I'm going to put a little bit of flour on my hands. And I'm going to separate my fingers and I'm going to begin rolling the dough. What you don't want to see happen is you don't want the dough to have all of the dough at the end. So you want to just roll it so that it grows, and then you want it to be around 12 inches long. And I don't want it too fat because I want to use this to make a nice French baguette sandwich for my husband. He's going to be very happy. Now, this is approximately 12 inches long right here. So what I did earlier today when I made them is I'm not good at getting the end of this to a point, and I like it. You could leave it like this, but I like it when it's at a point. So I picked up the end of it and I rolled it individually like that. And I did the same thing on this side. So there, we're looking more like a baguette. So this is all ready now. I'm going to put this on my bond mat, and then I'm going to do the second one. If it doesn't fit longwise on your bond mat, and this is my very used bond mat, you can do it diagonally, which is nice also, or you could do it straight. Now you bake them both together. So I'm going to take this one and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to shape it out a little bit. Then I'm going to fold it over. And I'm going to push that in. I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to do the same thing again. And I didn't put any flour on my hands, but that's okay. Just so that seam is not seen now. It's not seen. So we're going to take this. We have that shape going on. I'm going to take a little bit of flour in my hands. And I'm going to roll it. And remember, your baguette will be better if you roll with your fingers separated. Good trick I learned from my French friend. If you have too much dough and your baguette gets too long, it's okay. You can make it into an S. You can make it into an 8. It doesn't have to be the shape of a baguette. This dough is going to turn out great no matter what you do with it because it's a really nice dough. I'm going to take the end like that a little bit. Okay, so you can see it's pretty even. Okay, then I'm going to put it on my bond mat. And we're going to let this do a second rise for 30 minutes. And what we're going to do before we bake it, we're going to splash a little bit of water on it. I'm going to put a little bit of flour on top. You don't want to put too much because you don't want to dry out your dough. I think it's like looking more authentically French when you have that flour, and I've always put flour on top of my dough. Then I'm going to, I normally take, sorry, I take my receiving blanket again, my flour towel, and I put it over this. I don't want any air getting to this because I don't want the dough to be dried out. You could put the bag over it, but I don't. It's only 30 minutes. It's pretty quick. And you just want to set it someplace where it can rest and rise. So what I'm going to do now is I really feel like it's so important to give you a little bit of information about the difference in the flour. Why is the French flour better than the US flour? It's not just because I'm obsessed with France and everything French. I understand the difference in the food and in the technologies that they use with food and manufacturing. And, you know, our company Bon Cook is 100% about quality. And the key ingredient in this particular flour is T55. It's a T55 flour, which means it's a flour that's finely milled, and it's a French flour with low protein content. It produces a light, open crumb and a crisp golden crust. It's essential for authentic baguettes, and the 55 refers to the ash content, indicating a more refined flour than the T65 or a straight whole wheat flour. So the regular flour that we buy in the US is T50. That's like an all-purpose flour. It's hard to find a T55 flour because the process that they use for the flours in the US, that's why so many people have reactions to gluten and whatnot, and it's because of all of those, the gluten that is in the whole process of the wheat and growing the wheat and all of that. So the shaping technique also is so important. Make sure to separate your fingers. And you know what? If you don't have T55 flour, you can do this with a good flour. One of the King Arthur flour, I'm not sure if it's, I'm sorry, the bread flour or the regular flour, but the King Arthur flour is closest to a T55 flour because they've taken extra steps in the processing of that particular flour. So if you don't have the French flour or you don't want to order it, you can order it on Amazon. It's Francine. There are many places in the US that you can actually order it from, or if you have an international market somewhere. But you can also use the King Arthur flour, which I also use the King Arthur gluten-free flour, which is fabulous. Just add one extra egg and nobody will know it's gluten-free. It's the best trick my sister taught me. So that's all we have to say about the bread. I will show you the next process where I put water over the bread very lightly before I bake it, because we want a really nice crispy crust, and that definitely does bring that. So now I'm going to do some potato chips. Don't you think, along with your sandwiches, don't you think it would be great to have some chips? One thing I do know about making chips, these are the chips that I made. And if I put them out here, you can see they're pretty crackly. They're a little bit browned because I took them out and then I put them back in. I sprinkled the Parmesan on them and then I put them back in. These are really, really great when they're served hot, but you can also eat them cold. So they're cooked they're baked at 400 degrees, I believe, and they're pretty tasty. The other night I made them and I put a lot more salt on them. My husband loved them. They still had a little bit of soft potato inside because I didn't slice them incredibly thin, and I just sliced them with a knife. But I want to show you just how simple it is to make something like this. So I have this potato here, and I have the knife, and these I did peel all. I peeled this, and then I'm not going to peel these just for time's sake, because the brownie recipe is going to take a little bit of time. But I basically peel them. I slice them like this, so they're not too fat and not too thin. What you don't want is a shaved type of potato that is sliced so thin that it doesn't really have too much of an edge on it. And the reason that you don't want that is because when you bake them on the bon mat, like this one, very, very thin, this one will stick and it will be the first one to brown. So you want to still have a little bit of crunch. Your potatoes, as you make them, they should curl up when they're done. I kind of babysit them a little bit, and you want to babysit them because you want to make sure that if they're crispy enough, some of the smaller ones will be crispier, the thinner ones will be crispier. You can take them out. But pretty much you want to just cut right through this. And no, I'm not cutting on the bon mat. The pastry mat. I'm being very careful. So I'm just going to show you what we do with this. First, I put them in this bowl, and then I kind of look at them to see how much water content do they actually have. This is a very important step. You can see that I made quite a few of these. I take these potatoes and I line them on the paper towel. And my goal is to dry them out. I washed the potato before I cooked it. I'm not re-washing these pieces because you don't want a lot of water on the potato, because if there's a lot of water content on it, a lot of liquid, it's not going to brown. So what I do is I basically do one potato. This is 2 potatoes. Right here is 2 Idaho potatoes. So you can see it makes quite a bit. And you can, if you want more seasoning or something on them, if you make them during the day and you want to serve them for dinner, you can pop them back in the oven for 3 to 4 minutes, and they're going to be nice and hot and crispy all over again. And you can see these are still, they're crispy. So that's really nice. I leave the potatoes here for at least 10 minutes, but let's say that they've been sitting here for 10. And I'm just going to show you how we wrap this up with the potatoes. The one thing that you want to remember about the potatoes, if you're going to do this, you need to massage the oil, the salt, and the paprika into the potatoes. I have a little bit of oil left here. I'm going to use just about 1 tablespoon per potato. And this is just a half of the potato, so it's less than a teaspoon. And then I'm going to also put in, what can I have? Roasted garlic and chive. Some of that. And then I have some pepper. I use Vietnam pepper. This one is Palo Cherry that I grabbed. And then if you want them to turn like a nice color, if you don't want them to look white, you need to put paprika. And I also use a garlic, the Bon Cook's French Pantry garlic paprika salt. So I'm putting this quite a bit, and I mean quite a bit, I'm sprinkling it. So it's about a half of a teaspoon. I'm going to put a little bit of oil on my hands. Just wash them after the bread. And I want to massage everything into these potatoes. Why am I doing that? Because if you're just going to sprinkle, what happens when you just sprinkle it, you don't get both sides of the potato. You end up using more ingredients than you actually need to use. And I want them to turn color. So see how they turn color here. Turns really nice. Now they look orange when I'm getting ready to bake them. I'm going to put them on my Bon mat. I will move these things here. Just taking these potatoes and placing them on the Bon mat. 1 large potato, 1 Idaho potato large it's going to fill 1 large Bon mat. A half a potato will fill close to like 3/4 of the medium Bon mat. I only use half of this potato. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get the salt. So we have paprika, roasted garlic and chive, pepper, and oil. Very, very simple ingredients. And I don't know about you, but I always keep a mortar and pestle on my counter. And the reason that I do this is because I put our salt, sometimes I mix the salts. Right now I have the red wine salt and the garlic paprika. That's just what ended up here. So I'm going to just take a little bit of salt and I'm going to sprinkle it on top. And I'm going to stick this in the oven. My oven right now is at 460 degrees because I want to put the breads in there. So I'll keep an eye on it. If it starts burning, my smoke alarm will go off. My husband will come running. Okay, so that is a really, really simple thing to do. And how nice to do that. One thing I realized, if you're eating homemade chips, you don't eat as many as if you would if you had a bag of chips or a bowl of chips in front of you. Why? Because if you're making them, you're not going to put as much salt. And I think that when you eat bagged chips, you're really getting attracted to the salt and not so much to the flavor of the potato. So this exemplifies the flavor of the potato, the roasted garlic and chive, the garlic paprika salt, and the red wine salt. So I'm just going to put these, and always when you get them out of the oven, I turn the perforated baking sheet upside down like this. And I just dump everything from the bond mat onto this. I allow them to cool. I turn them over after about 4 minutes because I want to make sure, of course, both sides are going to cool with the perforation, but I just want to make sure and check the other side to see if it has the Parmesan cheese. You can bake it the first time with the Parmesan, or you could take them out just before they're done, sprinkle the Parmesan on them, and then put them back in the oven for about 3 minutes. It makes them really roast and toast up really, really quick. And then when you put them all together, it's very important that you put them in something that is also perforated. And the reason that I do that is because I don't want all these potatoes to become very soft, because they're chips. They're supposed to be kind of crunchy and salty and good. So I want to make sure that they continue to taste good. Just put them back in here. You can see some of them are quite brown, but my husband really loves that. You know, the people that are always looking for the brown potatoes, he's one. Okay, so I'm going to clean up my work surface right here, and then I'm going to show you how to do the brownie. This brownie is so simple and so beautiful. It's made with really good ingredients. You have a semi-sweet chocolate bar that you use. You use 1 cup of Dutch processed cocoa, just some really, really good stuff. You use eggs. And you don't even need a mixer for this. You can literally do this entire brownie mix. You can see here I have melted 3/4 of a cup of butter and 1/2 of the bar of the chocolate. So we're just setting this right here, and I'm going to be using that. And get the bowl that we have here to start mixing this. We're going to mix it all by hand. You could use a mixer, but you really don't need to. So the first thing that I'm going to do here with the fudgy brownies is, of course, I'm going to preheat my bottom oven to 350 degrees. I hope my oven doesn't start making noise, because my bottom oven does for some reason. If it does that, I'm going to turn it off. Okay, bear with me. Okay, so we have preheated the oven. We are going to use the square mold. I've got a brownie already done that I'm going to unmold, of course. In the microwave, I melted this by 30-second increments. I think it took 4 increments of 30 seconds, 3 of 30 and 1 of 20, the last one. If you use good ingredients, you'll see that this stayed melted. And it's rather cold, but it still stayed melted and perfect. That's the melted chocolate, 1/2 of the chocolate bar. And the chocolate bar that I use is Ghirardelli, the semi-sweet. It's 4 ounces, and this is really a good chocolate, or the Lindt chocolate is really good chocolate if you're baking, to bake with. So we're going to add together the cocoa powder, the flour, the salt, and the remaining 2 ounces of the chopped chocolate, which I just broke up the chocolate, but I'll break it up a little bit more. And we're going to add the walnuts as well. So we start with our dry ingredients, pretty much. Start with the cocoa powder. You know, a lot of times people feel like you have to have a lot of chocolate in order for the brownies to be really good, but the brownies with the cocoa powder is the best version, absolutely the best version of brownies. And it's a healthier version as well. I need to get a whisk. I always like to whisk the cocoa a little bit. That's why I always use a much deeper bowl than what I need, because I don't want any lumps in it, and I don't want lumps in the brownies either. Okay, So we are going to add the flour. This is 1 cup of flour, and this is a T50 flour. That's how I'm talking about flours. It's an all-purpose flour. It's 5 roses. That's what I had here, so that's what I'm using. It is what I normally bake bread with. It turns out so good, and it also doesn't have a high gluten content in this flour, and it's Canadian flour. I've been using it for about 35 years, but I'll switch to the French now. My new thing. Okay, so we want them mixed up really nice together. So when you put all the ingredients, that you're starting with things that are partially mixed is really important. Then cocoa powder, flour, and the salt. Here's the salt. Then I need to whisk the sugar into this. And the sugar that I use the castor sugar. And I really love the sugar. And I learned from Ina Garden that the sugar actually is really much better for baking. So that is what I use. But believe me, you can use the regular sugar. Nobody will know. So you could see this becomes rather fudgy right now. And this is like a real fudgy brownie. And that's why the recipe is called Fudgy Brownies. This looks exactly like fudge. It's 3/4 cups of butter, a half of the chocolate baking bar, semi-sweet chocolate, and then 2 cups of the sugar. So you can see this definitely looks like a lot of fudge here. And I'm sure it tastes a lot like fudge too. And this whole brownie mix is definitely a brownie mix that is very, very fudgy. Okay, and then we are also going to add in the 2 ounces I have left of the chocolate bar. And I am just going to break this up into small pieces. I did chop it when I made the brownies the other day. I did chop it in the Eco Chop, and that was fine, but I don't have my Eco Chop out right now. But I did earlier today chop the walnuts in there, which is really good. And I just pull like about 4 pulls, 5 pulls at the most, because I don't just want a dust of walnuts. I want to see the walnuts. So I have some small and some a little bit larger. You'll find that in my walnuts. This batter is going to be very thick, and you'll be able to spread it very evenly in your mold as well. Then we're going to add the walnuts. So you can see that there's large pieces and small pieces, and I think that that's really good. This is 3/4 of a cup. And I'm just going to mix this all together. And then I need to add the eggs, which we have 3 eggs that we put in, and the vanilla. And I'm trying to follow the recipe, which, of course, I don't. I'm gonna have to check it. So we're going to add the eggs in one at a time, and we're going to add the eggs into the flour, and then we are going to mix in the fudge afterwards. I like to mix my eggs up a little bit before I add them in. And I'm going to do it one by one. simple. You can see those chunks of chocolate, which I really love in there. So nice. They're all going in the same place, so it's okay. And you'll see that as we continue to go, this just becomes like really thicker and thicker. And when the first time I made these brownies, I thought, oh, is that supposed to be that thick? But then you realize that this is like a fudgy type brownie. So of course, yes, it's supposed to be that thick. Last egg. I'm going to add the vanilla. It's 2 teaspoons of vanilla, I believe. Now I am going to start adding fudge mixture. You can see it's already very fudgy. And I'm going to use the regular spatula. Now you can use the spatula or the spoon. And I'm going to start with one of the spatula spoons because it's very thick. You can see this is very thick. This just reminds me of a fudge my mother used to make. Just smelling it, I just am remembering that. So what's nice is all of this is going to come together. And the whole idea here is just to pretty much mash it so that you get it all together. And you'll see that it will start becoming very, very dark as you get more of this mix in. Who doesn't want brownies at their picnic? And the cool thing about these brownies, you can literally pick them up with your hand and just wipe your hand with a napkin afterwards. They're not the kind of brownies that are going to get, make such a mess with you because they are really thick. They're the consistency is really solid, which is really nice. So the idea here is to make sure that as we mix this, we get all of the light colored chocolate with the dark colored chocolate. We'll put a little bit, the rest of this in. I don't remember what that fudge was called that my mom used to make. Do you know, Emily? Mom used to make a fudge that looked just like this. Oh, she said she dropped it into water and then it formed. Wow. Cool. Wow. Well, no one's going to feel bad eating these brownies. I can tell you that they're going to love them. Just the smell alone is so good. It's a little bit of a workout to get it all mixed up, but once you do, you do. It's cool. And you don't need a lot of anything. And I don't think you need anything else. I'm just going to check my ingredients to make sure. Excuse me, I always drop stuff. It's not all for me. We have 2 cups of sugar, 3 eggs, 2 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract, 1 cup of Dutch processed cocoa powder, 1 cup of all-purpose flour level, which we did, 3/4 cups of walnut chopped into large pieces, and we also have the 1 teaspoon of salt. So this is pretty much it. This is how our brownies look. So what we want to do, just make sure that we get all of the light with the dark. I'm gonna just take the other spatula, clean off the spoon. It's much easier actually to do this now. I think that the process, you just have to, it's kind of like working with dough, but you're using a spatula instead of your hands. And it really reminded me of kneading bread dough when I was doing this. And hopefully you can see that pretty well. You can see that when you go at it with the spatula, you see all of the butter coming together with all of the chocolate. And now it's becoming moister and moister because the butter is getting warmer, and it's not going to liquefy, of course, but it is working its way into the rest of the dough. And we have it. That's it. Okay, so I'm going to grab my plate and unmold the other ones and put this in. So here is the brownie with the 2 cups of sugar. You can see this is pretty solid on top, which I love. Then we're just going to flip this over. Hold this. Okay, you can see this is the bottom of it with all of the walnuts here. Bring it over here to you. Looks so nice. And then I can just pick it up and flip it because I made it a couple of days ago. So we have it there. And then I'll cut that after I will rinse out this mold, even though I don't have to because there's literally nothing in it. I mean, look, I only put a speck of butter in here. So it's just amazing how well these products work. And the more you use them, the more you realize how good they are and how well they do with cakes. And I was shocked making a brownie. I took it out and within 10 minutes I unmolded it and I was like, maybe it needs more time because it's a brownie. Oh no, it didn't. It unmolded beautifully, just right there. So I'm going to put this into the mold. We've already got our oven heated. I'll put this in the sink. And I'm just going to push this down so I can get it pretty even. I want the sides as even as the middle. That's always very important. You could make this thinner brownies. You could make it in the rectangular mold. But I don't think they're too fat. They're too thick. I don't think they're too thick with this mold. I like it in the square mold. So I'm just going across and I'm pushing down and pushing back. Then I'm going to get the offset spatula is perfect for things like this. You want something to get even, this is the way to do it. The spatula just doesn't have a flat enough edge on it in order to get it right. And with this one, we can definitely get it correct. You can also smooth out the surface. The whole goal is to have an even brownie on all sides and through the middle. We don't want everything in the middle. And I think we're doing good. The offset spatulas, we also have a larger one. They are fabulous tools, especially if you bake anything. This is a really simple brownie mix for anyone to make. Why would we ever buy a box brownie mix when you can make this? Have you ever read the ingredients to a box brownie mix, one at Costco that everyone buys. I couldn't even read all of it. First, I couldn't see all of it, but it was almost the whole box. And I was like, there's no way that I'm going to make that and serve it to anybody. So you can see our brownies are all set and ready to go in the oven. Perfectly done. Pretty simple. Temperature is right at 350 degrees. And the next thing we'll do is, oops, the potatoes are burning. They're not really burnt. But what I would do at this time, I would take the Parmesan cheese, sprinkle on top. And because they're pretty toasted already, I can just leave them like this because they're so hot that cheese is gonna go right into the potatoes. It's gonna be fine. Just empty that, okay. And then I like to move around the other ones on there. Get the rest of that cheese. And that's good. Set this over here. Now we say, okay, what about that bread? I know you're dying to know what we're going to do with that bread. Well, one thing that we're going to do with the bread is we're going to see how it's looking right now. I think it's probably pretty ready. Look how beautiful that looks. So cool. So now I want to, you know how you see the French baguettes, and the ones that I made, I cut them like this, which is actually wrong because if you cut in between it, it makes a poof here, and then in this diamond it makes a poof, and then it makes one here. But the correct way to do it is to think as if you have a line here, and you have a line here in the middle, and then you go like this down the baguette, and then you do this, and you do halfway from where you did on the other side. And there's a million ways to do this. I mean, the French chefs will tell you there's a best way to do it or not. But, oh, I don't have the scissors here, but I was going to cut this other one. But I think I'll just do the same thing and think about going down the middle, doing this. There's a lot of different things that you can do, believe me. When you go down the middle, this will be the French baguette. You see that it's open and you can see the middle of the bread there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little bit of water. And this water can be just warm water, cold water, not hot, not cold, just in between, not even lukewarm. And I'm going to pat the bread with the water. And the reason that I do this, and this is going to give the bread a really nice crunchy crust. And I'm not trying to get rid of all the flour because, you know, a traditional baguette, you can always kind of see the flour on there. You don't want too much, you want enough. Okay, that's it, very simple. Now I'm going to stick them in the oven. They cook for about anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes. And I'm going to start them on the middle rack, and then I'm going to move them to the bottom rack because I like they will be brown on the bottom, even on the middle rack, but I like to flip things around. One thing that I learned from Stéphane Glacier, who was a French chef that did a lot of classes for us and came and did presentations, and everything that he bakes, he turns the tray, and I started doing that, and I cannot believe how much better everything turns out because I've been doing that. So I'm sure that you're dying to see the baguettes. I'm gonna just grab something out of my fridge here. So there is a French sandwich that they sell 3 million of a day in France. And that is called the jam bimber. And what it means is ham with butter. That's it. It's ham with butter. So of course, we ate those sandwiches when we were there. And I had to bring back, I brought back, I think, 5 pounds or something of butter in these small little pieces. So I'm going to give my husband this for dinner tonight. Homemade baguette, ham, and just butter. Not just butter, a lot of butter. It is the most popular sandwich in France. It's all, the only thing that beats it out is a hamburger. And like I said, there are 3 million served a day. And they put the finest boiled ham on that sandwich. And the sandwich is also called the Parisian. So I'm going to get the baguettes that I have here. You can see I made these this morning. Front and back, they look so good. And I feel like I perfected my ends much better than I did the other day. They were round like the rest of the bread. And this is, you know, it's been out all day, so it's not soft on the outside, but it's crunchy on the outside, and it's going to be soft inside. The other thing about the bread is, baguettes are made to last 24 hours. If you want them to last longer, you need to wrap them and put them in the freezer. But I'm going to show you just how nice the bread looks inside. See that crust? And I baked this, I think I had it done by like 10:30 this morning. So here we go. Wow, beautiful baguette. Here we go. So we're going to take the butter, and I'll get another offset spatula here, my spreader. And I'm going to take some of this butter, and this butter comes to room temperature so quickly. And do you know why? No bad ingredients. It's all 100% pure. They say that you can never have too much butter on this sandwich. The sandwich is supposed to have a lot of butter. So normally I would never put this much butter, but I want to show you this sandwich. So I'm putting the butter the way they do in France. Butter both sides of the bread. And you spread the butter. They say that your butter should be 1/4 of an inch thick. I just can't do it. I'm sorry. I can't. I love the French, but okay, come on. It's a lot of butter, but my husband will be happy. They don't put any cheese on this particular sandwich, the Parisian, and it was originally created for the workers so they could pick up a sandwich on the way to work or midday, and they could just eat on the go. So they could just walk and eat. Sounds like something we do here in the US. So the ham, I just have a boiled ham here, and this is the type of ham they put on these sandwiches. They use the finest of the ham. And what you do is you take the ham, and of course you fold it. My husband's going to say, where is the cheese? Not where's the beef, where's the cheese? Okay, so this is the French sandwich. Isn't it beautiful? I hope you're loving it as much as I know my husband will. And if we were in France, we would take some paper and we would wrap this up, and he could walk down the street eating like that. So my girls were doing it the entire time we were in France. It was so funny. But if you wanted to create a gourmet sandwich, you could take the tapenade. You could take any of the aiolis. You could take mustard, and you could really mix up the ingredients and make it into a real gourmet delight. So I thought today I would show you the very simple way to make the French sandwich with the French baguettes. And I hope that whatever you do, I hope you try some of these recipes, and that you do try them and your family does enjoy them, because of course, that's why we certainly are doing these classes, because we want to inspire more people to cook well at home. And people are in such a rush today that they feel that they they have to hurry through everything, and everything has to be just pop it in the oven. But you know what? If you just take that one extra step and just a little bit more time, you'll realize that you could make some really fabulous homemade food without an extreme amount of effort. So, are you ready to do that? I certainly hope so. I'm going to cut the brownies. I'm curious to see how they're looking today inside. They're very crunchy on the outside and they look very gooey inside, which is exactly how you want the brownie to look. And I will grab a plate. This will give you a good idea. Oh, it's 9:07. I'm going past my time. Look how nice this looks with the walnuts inside. We can stack these up and you can see that they're nutty, walnutty, sugary, crystallized sugar on the outside. Absolutely gorgeous stack of brownies. And wherever you are tonight, I hope that you have learned something and you find some great tips and hints, that something that you could pass on to someone else. Invite one of your friends or two of your friends to come along to these classes with you. Next week, we're going to do a rustic French dinner. We have, of course, for the season, we have a strawberry rhubarb galette. So simple to make, so much easier than pie. I actually made it the other day. It was really fantastic. The second recipe is burnt broccoli, which is amazing. All of the sweetness from the broccoli crystallizes as you char it in the oven. It's really, really good. People that eat that don't want to ever eat broccoli any other way. And the third recipe is a one-pan meal. It's French chicken quarters with carrots, potatoes, garlic, and shallots. And a little bit of white wine. So definitely put it on your calendar and join us next week at 8 p.m. And thanks so much for joining in. We're so happy that you had the opportunity. And I just want to thank my other Bon Cook consultants, Rhonda Kill, Michelle Jenkins, and Leslie Burnett, for all the help that they've been giving during these classes. And I'm sure you'll see some of them next week as well. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great night. Bye-bye.